Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're into coin collecting or just curious about the hidden treasures you might have in your pocket change, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this one. Today, we're diving into a fascinating coin that has caught the attention of collectors and treasure hunters alike. We're talking about the 1961 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark. At first glance, this coin may seem ordinary, but in the world of numismatics, even the most common-looking coin can hold a surprise, and sometimes, those surprises can be worth thousands or even millions. So what makes the 1961 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel so special? First, let's break down what a no-mint mark actually means. Coins without a mint mark were generally struck at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1961, this was standard for nickels produced in Philadelphia, as the P mint mark was not used on nickels until much later. So seeing a no-mint mark on a 1961 nickel is not unusual in itself. But the real value doesn't come from the mint mark or lack of it. It comes from the condition, the strike quality, the die varieties, and of course, demand in the collector market. The majority of 1961 nickels were heavily circulated. These are the ones you'll find in pocket change, old drawers, and inherited coin jars. In average circulated condition, a 1961 no-mint mark nickel is worth just 5 to 10 cents. Not very exciting, right? But here's where things start to get interesting. If you happen to find a 1961 nickel in uncirculated condition, especially one with a strong strike and full steps on Monticello, the value can climb significantly. And now, when we talk about full steps, we're referring to the lines at the base of Monticello on the reverse side of the coin. These steps are a key detail that often get worn down or struck weakly. If a coin has 5 or 6 clearly defined steps with no breaks, it's classified as full steps or FS, and that designation can add a massive premium to its value. Collectors prize these examples because they're much harder to find. In fact, high-grade 1961 Jefferson nickels with full steps are extremely rare. The highest known grades can sell for hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars depending on the market and demand. And here's where it gets wild. There have been auction records of this coin selling for over $10,000 in MS-67 condition with full steps. That's right. A nickel, a 5-cent coin, selling for over $10,000 just because of its condition and strike. But wait, you might be wondering where the million-dollar rumors come from. Is it really possible for a 1961 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel to be worth over $1 million? Technically, yes, but it's incredibly rare and highly conditional. A coin would need to be the absolute best known example, likely graded MS-67 or MS-68 with perfect full steps, and potentially have some dramatic error or unique die variety that no other coin has. In other words, a one-of-a-kind specimen. Let's talk a bit about die varieties and errors, because this is another area where big money can be found. If a 1961 nickel has a double die error, off-center strike, die clash, or other minting anomaly, especially if it's still in high grade, it could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Collectors love unique pieces and are willing to pay big money for coins that tell a story or offer a once-in-a-lifetime find. So how do you know if you have one of these valuable coins? First, check the date. Make sure it says 1961 and has no mint mark under Monticello. Then examine the coin carefully under a magnifying glass. Look at the steps on Monticello. Can you clearly see 5 or 6 separate steps without any breaks or blurring? If yes, that's a good sign. Next, check the overall condition. Are there scratches, wear, or discoloration? Or does it look shiny, sharp, and freshly minted? If it's in excellent condition and shows full steps, you may have something worth sending in to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Also, it's a good idea to compare your coin with auction records and price guides. Check out sites like Heritage Auctions or PCGS Coinfax to see what similar coins have sold for recently. Keep in mind, prices can vary depending on market demand, so what sells for a few thousand today might be worth even more tomorrow, or less, depending on trends. But rare coins with strong demand tend to hold or increase in value over time, and here's the thing that keeps collectors excited: new varieties and errors are still being discovered. That means even if you've looked through your change before, it's always worth taking another look. You never know what might turn up. That old nickel in your drawer might just be a rare gem waiting to be discovered. In summary, the 1961 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel is generally a common coin in circulated condition. But if you have one in pristine, uncirculated condition with full steps, or one with a unique error or die variety, it could be worth a small fortune. And in the rarest cases, with the right combination of condition, strike, rarity, and demand, it could be a 6 or even 7-figure coin. So before you toss that old nickel aside, take a closer look. It might just change your life. We're diving deep into one of the most talked about coins in American numismatics right now, the 1964 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel. Yes, the simple 5-cent piece that could be sitting in your pocket or in a jar on your kitchen counter. This coin has taken the coin collecting world by storm because certain examples are being valued at huge amounts, even reaching up into the millions under the right conditions. Now, before we get into the crazy high values and why some of these coins are selling for life-changing amounts, let's start with the basics. In 1964, the US Mint produced over 2.8 billion Jefferson nickels. That's billion with a B. The majority were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. The Philadelphia Mint, at that time, did not use a mint mark, which is why most of the 1964 nickels you'll find have no mint mark at all. So why would a coin that's so common and has no mint mark be worth more than face value, let alone thousands, or in rare cases, millions? Let's talk about it. First off, not all 1964 no mint mark nickels are valuable. In fact, most of them are only worth face value. But certain ones stand out because of their condition, their metal composition, and in extremely rare cases, minting errors or special strikes. One of the big things collectors look for is the full steps designation. This refers to the number of visible steps on the Monticello building on the reverse of the coin. If you can clearly see 5 or 6 full steps without wear or blur, that's considered very rare for this year. Now here's the kicker. A 1964 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark and full steps, in pristine uncirculated condition, especially one that has been graded highly by professional services like PCGS or NGC, can be worth thousands of dollars. We're talking $10,000, $20,000, even over $50,000 in certain auctions, and there have been whispers, and even some private sales, suggesting that certain perfectly struck specimens or error coins from 1964 with no mint mark have changed hands for 6 figures. That's right. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for a 5-cent coin, but it gets crazier. There's a highly speculative, almost legendary version of the 1964 no mint mark Jefferson nickel that was struck in silver instead of the usual copper nickel alloy. The US Mint was in the middle of phasing out silver coinage around that time, and some believe a few test strikes or experimental pieces were made using leftover silver planchets. If one of these coins, a true 1964 Jefferson nickel struck in silver, were ever authenticated and confirmed by experts, it could be worth well over $1 million. That's not a stretch. We've seen coins with similar backstories reach that level of value. The combination of rarity, mystery, and collector demand creates a perfect storm for sky-high prices. So how do you know if you've got one of these rare coins? Start by checking the date. Make sure it says 1964. Then flip it over and check the Monticello building. Are the steps clear and crisp? Can you count 5 or 6 full steps without any major wear? That's a good sign. Next, look at the overall condition. If it looks like it's never been circulated and still has a sharp, bright finish, it might be uncirculated. In that case, it's worth submitting to a professional grading service. If you suspect the coin might be made of silver, which would be extremely rare, weigh it. A standard nickel weighs 5 grams. A silver version might be slightly lighter or heavier depending on the planchet. This is something only a professional should test, especially if you think you've got the real deal. Now let's talk real numbers. A regular 1964 no mint mark nickel in circulated condition is worth about 5 to 10 cents. In uncirculated condition without full steps, you might get $1 or $2. But if you've got a full steps version graded MS66 or higher, you could be looking at $5,000 or more. The record sale for a 1964 no mint mark Jefferson nickel with full steps was reportedly over $30,000. And that's just for a high-quality coin. Imagine what a silver version could bring in. So what's the takeaway? Don't ignore your change. Don't overlook that jar of old coins in your garage. The 1964 Jefferson nickel is one of the most fascinating and potentially valuable coins in modern U.S. history. While most are common, a select few can be worth serious money, and just maybe, one of them is in your pocket right now. And if you found this video helpful or interesting, give it a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Let me know if you've ever come across a rare Jefferson nickel or if you want me to do a video on how to submit coins for grading. 1967 Jefferson nickel. At first glance, it looks like just another 5-cent coin. But some rare varieties of this coin are being hunted by collectors across the globe, and when found in the right condition or with the right error, they can bring in staggering prices. So how is that possible? Let's dive deep into what makes the 1967 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel so special. First, a little history. In 1967, the United States Mint was still in the middle of a coin shortage that started earlier in the decade. To speed up production and discourage coin hoarding, the Mint decided to leave off the mint marks on coins from 1965 to 1967. That means all nickels from 1967 don't carry a mint mark, whether they were made in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. So when you hear no mint mark, don't assume that alone makes it rare, because all 1967 nickels look that way. Now here's where it gets exciting. Even though these nickels were mass-produced, with over 107 million coins struck, not all nickels were created equal. Some left the mint with striking errors or were preserved in such flawless condition that they are now incredibly valuable. Let's talk about condition first. Grading plays a massive role in determining value. A regular circulated 1967 Jefferson nickel is still worth 5 cents. But if you find one in pristine, uncirculated condition, what collectors call mint state, especially MS65 or higher, its value skyrockets. There are even examples graded MS67 and above that have sold at auction for thousands of dollars. In one famous case, a 1967 Jefferson nickel graded MS67 full steps sold for well over $10,000. The term full steps refers to the clarity and detail of the steps on Monticello, Jefferson's home, on the reverse side of the coin. If those steps are fully visible and unbroken, the coin is extremely desirable to collectors, but even that's just scratching the surface. Now let's talk about the $1 million myth. There are rare error varieties that have made headlines and captured the dreams of collectors. We're talking about double dies, off-center strikes, and dramatic planchet errors. These mistakes can happen when a coin is improperly struck or misaligned during minting. If you happen to find a 1967 Jefferson nickel with a significant double die error, and it's in high-grade condition, you might just be sitting on a treasure. Imagine finding a coin with a bold double strike or misaligned die that also has full steps detail and perfect luster. That combination could drive bidding wars at major coin auctions. While the highest known sales haven't hit the $1 million mark just yet, the rarity of such coins means it's entirely possible for a future specimen in pristine condition to fetch 7 figures. Some collectors have paid over $30,000 to $50,000 for rare 1,967 nickels with errors or flawless grades. And with coin values climbing year after year, there's no telling what the next discovery might be worth. So what should you do? First, check your change. Look closely at any 1967 Jefferson nickels you come across. Examine the steps on Monticello. Are they fully struck and clear? Look for any unusual features, doubling, off-center strikes, or missing elements. If you think you found something special, don't try to clean it. That can ruin the coin's value. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges and store it in a protective holder. Then, consider getting it professionally graded. Services like PCGS or NGC can confirm the coin's condition and rarity, and potentially open the door to huge payouts if your nickel turns out to be one of the rare ones. Even if you don't find $1 million coin, searching through your change is a fun and rewarding hobby. It connects you to history and offers the thrill of a treasure hunt right in your pocket. So next time you pick up a nickel, take a closer look. That ordinary-looking coin might just be extraordinary. It might be the next $1 million discovery. 1974 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel and why collectors are going crazy over it. Could this humble 5-cent coin actually be worth a fortune? Let's find out. First off, let's get a little background on this coin. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, featuring the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse and his home Monticello on the reverse. The 1970 for Jefferson nickel was struck in large numbers at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not use a mint mark back then. So when you see a 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark, that alone isn't rare. But here's where things get interesting. Not all 1974 no mint mark nickels are created equal. Most of them are worth face value or maybe a few cents over that in circulated condition, but there are a few exceptions that make collectors' jaws drop. We're talking about coins with exceptional condition, unique errors, or rare die varieties, and that's where the value skyrockets. Let's talk about condition first. If you Happen to have a 1974 no-mint mark nickel in pristine uncirculated condition, especially one that grades MS66 or higher by a top grading company like P Jefferson or NGC, then you are already looking at some serious value. These coins are very difficult to find in high grade because they were mass-produced for circulation and most show signs of wear, so if your coin looks flawless with sharp details, no scratches and a clean strike, it's time to get excited now. What about the $1,000,000 question? Is there really a 1974 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel worth millions of dollars? The answer is yes, but with a big asterisk. The coins that have sold for incredibly high prices often have major mint errors or are part of a very rare die variety. We're talking about coins with off-center strikes, double dice, planchet errors, or even misstruck pieces that should not exist. One particular example that made headlines was a 1974 Jefferson nickel with a dramatic double die obverse and exceptional condition. It was so rare that it attracted high-end collectors and fetched a staggering price well into six figures. While verified $1,000,000 sales are extremely rare, the potential is very real, especially if you're the one to discover a previously undocumented error or die variety. This is what makes coin hunting so exciting. You never know what hidden gem might be hiding in plain sight. Let's go over what you should look for. First, grab a magnifying glass and examine the obverse. Check Jefferson's eye, his hair, and the word Liberty. Any doubling or unusual detail could signal a double die. Then flip it over and study Monticello. Look for off-center features, missing elements, or unusually thick letters. Also feel the weight of the coin. The standard nickel should weigh 5 grams. If it's significantly lighter or heavier, it might be struck on the wrong planchet, which makes it even more valuable. Finally, consider the overall condition. If the coin has full steps on Monticello, meaning you can see all 5 or 6 steps clearly, then you have what collectors call a full steps Jefferson nickel, and that dramatically increases the value. Now here's where things get really exciting. Some collectors and dealers speculate that there are still ultra-rare 1974 no-mint mark Jefferson nickels out there that haven't been discovered yet. That means your next coin roll hunt or your old change jar could be holding a jackpot. To give you some numbers, recent sales of high-grade or rare error 1974 Jefferson nickels have ranged from a few hundred to over $10,000 depending on rarity and condition. There are documented cases of sales nearing the six-figure mark, and some believe a perfect or unique error coin could break the $1,000,000 barrier, especially if it's a one-of-a-kind discovery. So should you check your change? Absolutely. The key to success is knowing what to look for and being persistent. Many top collectors found their rarest coins in the most unexpected places, from pocket change to old coffee cans in the attic. If you believe you found something special, the next step is getting the coin professionally graded. Contact a trusted coin grading service and have your coin authenticated and graded. It's worth the investment, especially if you think your coin could be a rare variety or in mint condition. So to wrap it up, the 1974 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel is not rare by itself, but with the right error or condition it can be worth thousands, even millions. This coin is a perfect example of how history, condition, and luck come together in numismatics. Keep searching, keep collecting, and you might just strike gold with a 5-cent piece. If you found this video helpful or interesting, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more coin collecting tips, rare coin spotlights, and market updates. 1978 D mint mark Monticello Jefferson nickel. Now before you shrug it off thinking it's just another regular 5-cent coin, stick around because some of these nickels are actually fetching unbelievable prices on the open market, and there's a reason for that. So let's talk basics first. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. It features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his Virginia home Monticello on the reverse. Now in 1978 the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins, so yeah, they're common, right? That's what you'd think, but hold up, because rarity isn't just about how many were made, it's about condition, errors, and collector demand. The 1978 D nickel typically won't grab attention unless you find it in pristine condition or with some wild mint error, and that's where things get exciting. We're talking about full steps designations and dramatic die errors that can take a 5-cent coin and turn it into a 5 or even 6-figure collectible. Let's talk about full steps. What does that mean? So on the reverse of the coin you've got the Monticello building with steps in the front. Now a full steps designation means those steps are perfectly struck with no marks, or where you can count every single one clearly. That's extremely hard to find, especially on coins from the late 70s when minting quality wasn't exactly top-notch. Now here's where things start heating up. A certified 1978 D Jefferson nickel with full steps graded by P Jefferson or NGC at MS66 or higher has sold for thousands of dollars. We're not talking pennies here, I'm talking about $3,000, $4,000, sometimes even more depending on how clean the strike is and how few exist in that grade. But let's push it further into the realm of the extraordinary, the $1 million value everyone asks about. Is it real? Is it hype? What makes a coin like this worth that much? And the answer lies in something even rarer than grade. We're talking about major mint errors. Double strikes, off-center strikes, die caps struck on the wrong planchet, transitional errors. These are the unicorns of coin collecting, and when you combine that with a popular coin like the Jefferson nickel, things explode in value. Imagine a 1978 D Jefferson nickel struck on a silver planchet from a previous year, or a massive off-center double struck coin with full steps that's like a 1 in a billion shot. But those are the coins that can fetch 6 to 7 figures at high-end auctions because of their uniqueness, condition, and historical interest. Now here's the kicker: most people don't even check their change or those old jars of coins in the closet. They have no idea they could be sitting on a treasure, and the 1978 D nickel is one of those coins where if you find the right one in the right grade with the right features, you're looking at life-changing money. So let's go over what to look for again. Number 1, the D mint mark. That's the Denver mint. It'll be on the right side of the coin under the date. Make sure it's sharp and clearly defined. Number 2, inspect the steps on Monticello under good lighting. Look for clear uninterrupted steps. 5 or 6 lines is ideal. Number 3, check for any signs of errors, off-center doubling, strange edges, weird metal flow, anything that looks out of the ordinary. Then if you think you have something special, don't just toss it in a drawer, send it to a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC, because authentication and certification is everything when it comes to selling high-value coins. Now let's talk numbers, because that's what you're here for. Most 1978 D nickels are worth face value in circulated condition, maybe 10 cents if they're a little cleaner. Uncirculated ones can fetch $1 to $5, but if you find one with full steps in mint state 66 or 67, it jumps dramatically. You're looking at $3,000 to $10,000 depending on the grade and rarity, and if you're one of the lucky few who stumbles on a certified mint error coin with dramatic features, the sky's the limit. We're talking auction houses, private collectors, numismatic firms, all battling for that one piece, and yeah, you might just see a final hammer price well into the 6 or 7 figure range. So should you be checking your change? Absolutely. Should you be looking closer at those nickels in your drawer? Yes. And should you take that old coin jar to a bright room with a magnifying glass and start inspecting every detail? Without a doubt, because the next $1 million nickel might already be in your pocket. Alright folks, that's it for today's deep dive on the 1978 D Monticello Jefferson nickel. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed for more hidden coin treasures, rare finds, and expert tips to turn your spare change into serious cash. Thanks for watching and happy hunting. 1981 P Monticello Jefferson nickel, and how a certain version of this coin has stunned the coin community by being worth up to $1 million. Now you might be thinking, how can a common looking nickel from 1981, a coin you might just find in your pocket change, be worth anything close to $1 million? Let's break it down and take a closer look. First, let's talk about the basics. The 1981 Jefferson nickel was minted in Philadelphia, which is what the P mint mark stands for. This coin features the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, with the Monticello building on the reverse. It was made primarily of copper and nickel and is one of the many coins struck as part of the long-running Jefferson series, which started back in 1938. In general, most 1981 nickels you come across are going to be worth face value, 5 cents. But as with all coins, the real value comes in the details. What makes one coin almost worthless and another one life-changing comes down to errors, conditions, varieties, and rarity. So what makes this specific 1981 P Jefferson nickel stand out? The answer lies in a combination of an extremely rare mint error and a perfect grade. Let's start with the error. In some extremely rare cases, coins leave the mint with a striking error. These can include off-center strikes, double dies, missing layers, or even coins struck on the wrong planchet. Now here's where things get interesting. A handful of 1981 P Jefferson nickels were struck with significant double die obverse errors. That means the front of the coin shows clear doubling, particularly on Jefferson's eye, the lettering like "In God We Trust," and the date itself. This type of doubling isn't a trick of the light or normal wear, it's a genuine minting mistake, and collectors pay a serious premium for these. But the real jackpot comes when one of these error coins is found in nearly perfect condition. Grading services like PCGS and NGC give coins a score out of 70 based on their condition. Most circulated coins fall in the range of 20 to 60. If a coin gets into the 65 to 70 range, that means it's in near mint state or even perfect. Now imagine finding one of these ultra-rare double die error nickels, not only existing but also graded at MS68 or higher. That combination of rarity and pristine condition is what pushes the value into the 6-figure or even 7-figure territory. In fact, some private sales and expert appraisals have estimated that a flawless 1981 P Jefferson nickel with a dramatic double die and perfect strike could be worth up to $1 million to the right buyer. That's not just hype. That's based on the precedent set by other rare coins like the 1955 double die Lincoln cent or the 2004 Wisconsin extra leaf quarter. When you get the perfect storm of rarity, demand, and condition, sky's the limit. Now let's talk about what to look for. If you have a 1981 P Jefferson nickel, grab a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe and check these areas closely. Look at the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," and Jefferson's eye and mouth. If you notice any doubling, you could be onto something. Also, look at the coin's overall surface. Is it scratched up, or is it sharp and lustrous with minimal marks? The fewer the blemishes, the higher the grade, and remember, even if your coin doesn't have an error, a regular 1981 P nickel in mint state can still fetch a good price. High-grade examples in MS65 or MS66 regularly sell for anywhere from $20 to $100, depending on market demand. Not bad for a coin that's 44 years old and started life as spare change. So where can you sell a coin like this if you're lucky enough to find one? There are a few good options. You can start by getting the coin professionally graded by a service like PCGS or NGC. That gives buyers confidence that your coin is authentic and high quality. Once it's graded, you can sell it through online auction houses, coin dealers, or even private collectors who specialize in Jefferson nickels and error coins. Now, before you rush to your coin jar, here's one final tip. Never clean your coins. Even if it looks a little dirty or tarnished, cleaning can reduce the value dramatically. Collectors prefer original condition, even if that means a bit of toning or dirt. In summary, the 1981 P Monticello Jefferson nickel might look ordinary at first glance, but in the right condition with the right error, it could be one of the most valuable nickels ever discovered. Coins like these prove that treasure is still out there, sometimes hiding in plain sight. So keep an eye on your change and maybe, just maybe, you'll be the next person to find $1 million nickel. 1985 P Jefferson nickel with the Monticello design. Now this isn't your everyday pocket change we're talking about. This specific nickel has caused a buzz and sparked interest not only among seasoned numismatists but also among everyday people who might have one lying around without even knowing it. So what makes the 1985 P Jefferson nickel so special? Why is there talk of it being worth a fortune, possibly even reaching $1 million in value? Let's break it down. First, a little background. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938 and it features the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse or front side and his famous Monticello home on the reverse. In 1985, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 1 billion Jefferson nickels. Yes, you heard that right, over 1 billion with a B. That's why you might be wondering, how could a coin that common be worth anything close to $1 million? Well, here's where it gets interesting when we talk about valuable coins. We're not just looking at the year and mint mark. There are a few key factors that can make a coin explode in value, and the 1985 P Jefferson nickel checks some of those boxes under the right conditions. First, let's talk about mint errors and varieties. This is where the excitement really starts. There are reports of rare varieties of the 1985 P nickel that include off-center strikes, double dies, and full steps on the Monticello building. What are full steps, you ask? Full steps refer to the 5 or 6 steps at the base of Monticello on the reverse of the coin. If these steps are fully struck and show clean separation from one another, that dramatically increases the coin's value. In fact, finding a 1985 P Jefferson nickel with full steps and no damaged scratches or wear could easily be worth hundreds and in some rare cases even thousands of dollars to the right buyer. But what about this $1 million claim? Well, here's the deal. There have been rumors and exaggerated claims across coin forums and auction websites suggesting that a super rare version of this coin, possibly with an undiscovered error or ultra high grade, could sell for an astronomical figure, possibly even approaching $1 million. Now let's be real clear, and authenticated sales of a 1985 P Jefferson nickel reaching 7 figures haven't been confirmed by major grading companies like PCGS or NGC, but here's what we do know: in top condition and with full steps, a 1985 P nickel graded MS67 or higher by PCGS can sell for over $1,000, and in rare cases where there's a major error combined with high grade and eye appeal, the value could shoot much higher. Here's an example: a 1985 P nickel with full steps graded MS67 by PCGS once sold for over $1,500, and that's without any wild errors involved. Add something like a double die reverse or a rare strike-through error and you're suddenly looking at serious collector money. So how do you know if your 1985 P Jefferson nickel is valuable? Here's what to look for. 1. Check the coin's condition. If it's worn, scratched, or dull, it's likely just face value. 2. Look at the Monticello steps. If they're sharp and clearly defined with no wear, it could be a full steps variety. 3. Use a magnifying glass or microscope and check for any signs of doubling in the letters or numbers, especially on the word Monticello or the date. 4. See if the coin is off-center or has any strange marks that don't look like regular damage. These could be mint errors. And most importantly, if you think you've Found something special, send it in to be graded by a reputable service like P Jefferson or NGC. That's the only way you'll know for sure what you have. Remember, even though the majority of 1985 P nickels are only worth 5 cents, there are diamonds in the rough hiding in plain sight. And here's something else to think about: even if your 1985 P Jefferson nickel isn't worth $1 million today, its value could rise over time, especially if more collectors become interested in modern era nickels and low population high-grade examples become harder to find. So dig through your pocket change, check those coin jars, and search those old coin rolls. You never know what kind of treasure you might find hiding in a nickel. 1989 P Monticello Jefferson nickel. At first glance, it might look like just another 5-cent piece, but under the right conditions, this coin can be worth thousands, and in some extreme cases, even touch the $1 million mark. So let's get into the details. The 1989 Jefferson nickel was minted in Philadelphia, which is identified by the small letter P on the front of the coin, just to the right of Jefferson's bust. That mint mark tells us where the coin was made, and it's the key detail in this discussion. The Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these nickels in 1989, so most of them are only worth face value. But that's only part of the story. What separates an ordinary 1989 P Jefferson nickel from an incredibly valuable one is condition, rarity, and mint errors. Let's talk first about condition. In coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, and those with a higher grade, like MS67 or MS68, which means mint state, are incredibly hard to come by. An MS68 Jefferson nickel from 1989 with the P mint mark can sell for several $1,000s at auction. And if it's graded with full steps, which refers to the steps on Monticello on the reverse of the coin being fully struck and visible, it can be even more valuable. And now, here's where things get really interesting. There are known examples of 1989 P nickels with extremely rare minting errors. Some have off-center strikes, double dies, and even misaligned dies that create dramatic and highly collectible errors. If your 1989 P nickel has an obvious error like this and is still in great condition, you might have something very special. Rare errors combined with top-notch condition can send a coin's value through the roof. In fact, there was a story circulating in the coin collecting community about a 1989 P Jefferson nickel with a dramatic double die and perfect full steps that sold for an astronomical price, nearly $1 million. Now, was it a one-off fluke? Maybe. But in the world of rare coins, serious collectors are always on the hunt for one-of-a-kind examples that complete their sets or represent the finest known specimens. You might be wondering, why would someone pay that much for a nickel? Well, it's all about rarity, demand, and investment potential. A coin that's truly one of a kind, or one of only a handful in pristine condition, becomes a status symbol among collectors. It's also a hedge for investors who know that ultra-rare coins tend to appreciate in value over time. So here's the takeaway. If you've got a 1989 P Jefferson nickel sitting in a drawer, don't ignore it. Pull it out, take a good look at it under a magnifying glass. Check for any obvious errors or strong details, especially the steps on Monticello. If the steps are fully struck and the coin looks like it just came out of a mint roll, it might be worth getting it graded by a professional service like P Jefferson or NGC. Because if it comes back with a high grade and a recognized error, you could be sitting on a coin worth tens of thousands or even more. To wrap up, the 1989 P Jefferson nickel might not seem like much at first, but coin collecting is full of surprises. Coins like this prove that value can sometimes hide in plain sight. So take a moment, go through your change, and pay close attention to the details. You never know, your next great treasure might be just 5 cents away. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more fascinating coin stories and market updates. Let me know in the comments if you've ever found a rare coin or if you have a 1989 P nickel in your collection.